Good morning, Facebook. How are you? How's everyone? Good morning, Dawn.
Hey, good morning, Liz. It's a beautiful day in Cincinnati. I'm loving it.
It is. It's going to be 68 degrees today.
Yeah, I know. So Linda Bauer, who has been on the program with us, um, the Great Resignation with us, she got herself down to Florida, and she was sharing with us that it's really the same temperature in Florida as it is here. And over the years, when you think about climate change and how things are shifting, it is crazy that you used to go to Florida because it was warm down there and cold up here, but not so much anymore.
Right.
I know.
Now, she might not have the 32-degree days we had 4 or 5 days ago, but yeah.
Right. Well, I'm so glad to be able to keep doing these Great Resignation conversations. And right now we're planning to do them out through the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And then we'll look and see about if we're going to keep doing them into November and December. But we wanted the end of November and December, we wanted our people to know that we're doing this for a couple more weeks. And if you have a skill or an expertise that you would like to share with our audience, let us know. We would, Liz and I do not know everything there is to know about preparing for the Great Resignation. So just a reminder about what the Great Resignation is about. It was a term that was coined recently, and it's really about people who now, after they've had, a year and a half in COVID, are really rethinking their jobs, their careers, what's important, whether they want to work from home or if they want to use this time to make a big shift. And Liz and I are like, go you, right? If this is something you want to do, go. It's a really great thing. But what we're doing in this series is sharing what you ought to do to prepare. Just making a lot of times, we get frustrated with our life and we just jump, or we overanalyze and then we never jump. So we're just here to talk about, what do you need to be thinking about? What has you move? What are your blind spots potentially as it comes to making the move? And I don't know about you, Liz, but with the holidays coming, that's when I really remember last year when everybody was home. We were all home. The kids weren't in college, right? Because everything was shut down. So our college kids were all at home. All of us were working from home. It was wonderful in so many ways. In some ways it was a pain because everybody was home, but mostly it was such a fulfilling holiday because we got to spend quality time together in the snow and, in the Christmas lights. And a lot of people might be remembering that and wanting to make that a more permanent way of life. And if that's what you're up to, we're here to help you figure it out. Right?
Yeah.
What do you remember about the holidays, Liz? How was it for you?
Oh my gosh. There were so many things I loved about the slowdown of the pandemic. It really gave me an opportunity to connect with my family. A lot of distractions were removed so we can really focus on connecting with each other. I mean, we would work from home. The kids would be doing their schoolwork. My husband and I would be doing our work from home. And then we would make lunch. We'd sit down after lunch and play a couple hands of Uno or a game of Scrabble, and then we'd get back to work. I don't know the last time we were able to do something like that. We caught up on television shows. We did a lot of different things. And including last year for the holidays, we scheduled some Zoom calls with my family, with Fred's family, with our friends and our family. But it was nice for a change to shake things up so we can redefine what we want this year.
Right. And luckily for you and me, we already had a business that operated from our home. So we already had some understanding of what it takes to operate from home and to be able to close the door and to be able to get the work done that was needed, and to be able to use our calendars pretty effectively. But I was thinking about Christmas And for me, it's Christmas. Other people have other holidays. So when I use the word Christmas, my intention is not to offend anyone. It's just that's our big holiday. For you, it could be, there's like 14 different very special big holidays that are coming up over the next couple of months. And so insert your holiday if you hear me say Christmas. But the news is talking all about how we really ought to start shopping now, because there's a real concern with all of the ships that haven't been able to unload their cargo out on the West Coast. There's not going to be enough gifts, which then had me thinking about talking to family about maybe we should get the Christmas list early. Can I take advantage of Black Friday pricing? And then I started to think about how much money do I really want to spend? And even though we're money coaches, Christmas time is not, I'm still not really great at making sure I set money aside, but it's never enough, right? That's
Because it's
never
the
enough.
one time to be, oh my gosh, all my experiences, I can make sure I can spoil my loved ones, right? Yeah.
Right. And so I was thinking about how people pay for Christmas. And, we used to have Christmas funds. They used to be like a Christmas accounts at the savings and loan down the street, right? People would put in $5 a week or $10 a month or something back in the day when that was a lot of money. And so you would have your Christmas fund when you came time to go shopping. But we came across this article about emergency funds. And I thought, and it says that, and we've got it, I'll put it in the chat, but it says a third of middle-class Americans don't have $400 in emergency funds.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, if people don't have money in an emergency fund, how are they paying for holiday gifts, right? So, Liz, you come from a background of working with people who are, preparing for their long-term investments, and you've seen this article and you had this experience. Can you say a little bit about what what you have seen about this? And I'm going to put this article in the chat at the same time. So
absolutely, thanks, Dawn. Yeah, there's lots of different things that have happened over the years, and every year in January, there's also an article that comes out every year about how much Americans spent a month more than they made. So this is nothing new, as in it's just now or just a pandemic or this, that, and the other. But the article talks about 25% of the middle class. And it talks a lot about the middle class because it's a sign of the economy. And it's important to make sure that we kind of monitor what's happening with the middle income households, because it gives us information about the economy and where it's going. Only about 25% of the middle class households have enough savings to cover 6 months of expenses. And that means 75%.
25% of the people, I actually don't know anybody, unless they're extremely wealthy, that has 6 months of emergency fund, maybe a month.
Yeah, and this can be, like a lot of people don't necessarily always just put it in cash, but somewhere they can access, I can't even speak this morning, I need more coffee. They can get to the money fairly easily, right?
Okay.
So 25% of the middle class households, and that's to say that you could have the money somewhere else. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a savings account, but it has to be in a place where you could get to it within 1 to 3 to 5 days, kind of thing, right? Or
like a money market account or
money market account, something else that you can easily liquidate, that's low risk or no risk. Now, that's of course something you talk to a financial advisor about, but something that you can access the money. And the thing is, it's really interesting is, Dawn, I loved your tagline this morning. It said emergency fund or emergency credit cards, right?
Right.
So many people think like, I'll just use my credit cards and then I'll pay back when, right? And you know what? Not to say that that's a bad plan. Sometimes that works. But I had somebody yesterday that I was working with on a financial strategy to rebuild some savings and take a look at some other stuff. And that's why they're going through some money coaching, is because the win strategy never panned out the way they planned it. So they reached out and said, oh my God, how do I go back and take a look at this? And how
Mhm.
do I change things up? The hardest thing for people to do is to feel like, I don't know how to get started saving. I just don't know how. And it's
Right.
really interesting. It's just like anything else, baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. So if you read the article, it talks about doing 5 or 10% every time you get money, putting that aside into a savings account or emergency account. It is one of the easiest ways to save money in an emergency fund, is to do it a little bit at a time.
So when you say baby steps, you said percentage,
Yeah.
right? 1% or 3%, but it's really just about the habit,
Hmm.
right? A financial habit, whether it's $5 or 1% or just some process that you're doing regularly. Now, do you encourage people to physically make it happen? Like I actually transfer it myself, or do you have it kind of disappear? So I never saw it in the first place.
That is a great question. So sorry, my cat is joining the conversation, if you didn't
Hello,
notice.
pumpkin.
Good morning. So it has to match the personality of the person. So everybody has a different personality. If the money's going to hit your main checking account, and if it hits your main checking account, it disappears, then maybe it needs to be an automatic pattern.
Okay.
So really just ask yourself, is this something that would be better off automatically, or do I want to do it manually and celebrate it? I know that my daughter, and she would kill me if she knows I'm talking about her, but we talked about strategies of doing automatic investing, and every time the money hits, just having it automatically deposited. She goes, no, I'll do it manually. But she doesn't have the discipline yet to do it manually.
Right. Well, and it's all about discipline, right? And
Mhm.
to understand the long-term implication. And your daughter's still, you know,
Yeah,
under 25, right?
right.
So the world is still, they've got their whole life ahead of them. You know, you don't even sell life insurance to kids that are her age yet, right? Because they still got a lot of life to go. But so like I know, so we do a personality test, a money quiz with people, and I know that there are certain types that do better if it just gets pulled away and I never see it. So I'm my number one archetype is maverick, and then another one that I have is a celebrity, and my other one is a ruler. So my ruler wants to be able to count out the money and look at the money and make sure it's all okay. But
Mhm.
my ruler counts on having accumulators underneath me, right? Accountants who actually do it. So if I have to do it, I want to look at it, but somebody else has to do it for me. My maverick is like, I just better not ever see it. And you better put it somewhere where I don't even think about it. So it's growing without me knowing it, right? If it's attached to another account where I could easily transfer money over if I need it just this once for some thing, because Mavericks love to take risks, or they're sure they're going to be able to pay it back in 30 days. So say more about the personality types, if you would, Liz, with regard to emergency funds and credit cards, and who do you think
Sure.
who's the better saver? And and maybe people have somebody in their life that they could learn from or that could help them.
So accumulators are great at savings. If they just, everything is a puzzle to them. It's a math puzzle, right? But they also do the tried and true. So they're the type of person that is going to be like, oh, what works, what's tried and true. They're going to read a couple articles, and then they're going to do the 5 or 10% into emergency savings automatically. Paycheck comes in, it's the system is programmed to do it, and they're going to check and calculate and do check marks and have money dates just to crunch the numbers, right? Now, the romantic, I have high accumulator, high romantic, and high nurturer, just so everybody knows, and high connector. Those are my top four. But the romantic is the one, even when I started in the financial industry when I was in my 20s, I had to set money aside. I always did 15% of my 401k automatic, so I never saw the money. I had to hide money for myself a little bit, right? Because my romantic wanted to go and take 4 vacations a year and wanted to go out to eat every other night and go to a concert and experience everything there was to experience. My romantic also believed in emergency credit cards, really did. So I didn't necessarily in my 20s have money in the savings account. I had money that I could put in stocks and mutual funds. But I was like, I can always charge something and pay myself back if I needed to. But that's the kind of risk a romantic takes to live life. The money will just show up someday, right? And I
Mhm.
want to talk about that, Dawn. There are two ways to have more money. You can either spend less or make more, right? So people
Yeah,
can make
it seems
more
pretty
money,
obvious, right?
right? And people forget that aspect of it. So, for example, a maverick will go, okay, well, I have this thing I want to purchase. I'll just go make, let's say it's 10,000. I'll just go make $10,000, right?
I'll go make more. Oh, there's another expense. Let me just go make some more money.
Mm-hmm. Right. So don't feel like a lot of people get trapped in this conversation in their head, like, oh my God, how am I going to spend less? Maybe you just don't make enough. And that's the conversation that should be had first to
Mhm.
get to the point of saving money.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, credit is so easy to get now, Liz.
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy, and it seems so much easier to get a card with a 0% interest rate that you could hold as an emergency. You get a flat tire. You had a flat tire the other day, right?
I did.
Did you have
Friday.
do you have $150 in your pocket at the moment? I mean, you have access to that kind of stuff, but not everybody does, because we live in the moment now, right? We're not thinking about all the kinds of emergencies that we should have some money set aside for. When you're coaching different people on specific financial strategies, what are some of the things that you find that they run into where they had to go to a credit card because they didn't have the cash? So
Yeah,
like a flat
especially in the
tire,
last year and
right?
a half. There have been so many industries that got hit. The wedding industry got hit so hard. Wedding photographers got hit. Caterers got hit, restaurant workers got hit. There's a lot of people that took a pretty big hit. And they didn't necessarily have the emergency fund, or they just started building it up, depending on what was going on in their life. Most people don't have, the background that I had with regards to how to plan a certain financial strategy to make sure that you have money in categories to back up emergencies and emergencies to the emergencies. The first thing that people have to do, no matter what, is to really have an emergency fund, right? At least $500 to give you the freedom to go and buy a tire if you have a flat tire. Or,
Mhm.
I don't know, what's another emergency that might happen?
Hot water heater.
Oh my gosh, we had that happen too, but ours was just old. You know, it came with
Yeah.
a house that was already 5 years old. We've lived here 15 years. So, um, so hot water heater, flat tires, all these other things, you know, if you have about $1,000 is what I normally say inside of a savings account that is set aside just for emergencies, you have that ability. But the thing that people forget about sometimes is they forget that there are things of incidentals or seasonal things. So a pool membership might come up and cost $600. It's
Mm.
easier to save a little bit of that every month than to save $600 all at once, depending on how much money you make. So if you can break things down to a monthly expense, that's probably the easiest thing. And then you set that money aside into an incidental account that says, okay, if the pool membership is due, I've been saving, $60 a month to pay for this all at once. So I'm going
Mhm.
to go ahead and pay for this out of my checking account. I don't know why my cat wants
It's
me to.
okay. It's okay. Pumpkin's there to send love and nurturing to everyone,
He
right?
is the kitty cat nurturer.
Very, very kitty cat
Yes.
nurturing. Well, because Liz, I think that brings up another really good point. there are different kinds of programs. So first you have to think about, right, so this notion of you can earn more money or you can save it or spend less, right? Those are your options. Earn more, spend less. I was thinking about different strategies people could have if they're listening and they can't even imagine how to put 1% away, or how to, they might be strapped enough, especially going into the holidays. It's just so much easier to add an extra dollar to your minimum payment on your credit card bill, right? It's kind of when people go shopping for cars, you don't buy a car based on the price of the car, you buy a car based on the monthly payment you can afford, right? People, when the car dealer talks to you, it's not, this car is, $21,245. It's $299 a month.
For
Well, I
so
can't
many
afford
months.
$299. So, well, I can get you into it for $285, but you won't have this on it. But you never talk about the full price of the car, right? And how what the interest rates are that you're paying. And I think a lot of people don't realize that if they don't pay off their cards regularly, the interest rate continues to creep up on those cards. So you're spending a lot more money just on the interest rates even if you keep paying the minimum payment. But I was thinking about some folks that I was working with recently where what they decided, first they started to think about, before they buy something, do I want it or do I need it? Can you get rid of Netflix for 6 months? Now, you think 6 months, that's not such a big deal, but that's $100. That's part payment on your pool account, right? It's $100. Right. It's $100 in. Do you need that Starbucks coffee? Do you need the really expensive pods, right, in your coffee pot? Do you need the expensive cheese? Can you do the Kroger brand instead? And start to look, and can you do couponing? Can you do, and then the things that you normally, what that price normally would have been, you can take that extra money that you were ready to shell out and put that into an account. You can look around your house and look at the stuff that you just don't need. You don't want it, but it's just, what are you going to do with it? I have 3 couches in my house. Do I need 3 couches in my house? There's only 2 of them that I use. Why do I keep this extra couch in my house? There's probably somebody that would, and it's in beautiful condition. Maybe somebody would buy a couch.
It's for the big gatherings you're going to have once the pandemic's done, right?
Right. So there's a lot of little things that you can sell that can get you, we're not saying sell the big important things, but just to fund your account.
And everything's temporary. It really is. You may decide that you don't want a third sofa in your house, and then 5 years later, you're like, oh, I do want a third sofa. Okay, then go buy one.
Right.
So it's one of those things that if you can niche in and narrow into what works for me now and what's the prioritization, what needs are being met by having these things around me. And if it's really getting in your way and you don't look at it and go, oh, I love that, sell it.
Right. Yes. Right. Because I think if you talk to your friends and even other family members, they might have some really cool ideas on ways to help you get it funded that isn't a burden for yourself. The other day I was cleaning out my garden, and I had Roma tomatoes that I grew this year, and the tomatoes started to come on in early July, like tomatoes do, and I didn't get a red one all July. I just have hundreds and hundreds of these green tomatoes. And the plants just keep producing more green and more green tomatoes. And I'm like, when am I going to get a red tomato out of this mess? And finally, mid to late September, they started to turn red. When, of course, it's starting to get cold. So then instead I have like all of these green tomatoes. So I thought, well, I'll just make them into something. And then I thought, okay, that means I have to go buy stuff. I have to go buy is that worth it? But I did the math, and to buy just one container of like little ball jars was $8.69 at Menards, right? So then I got 11% discount on it. So now I'm down to just $8 for the jars and some cooking time. Well,
Yeah.
in one or two visits to Kroger, I'm going to have put that into tomatoes. So
Right.
it's thinking,
Right.
it's starting to be creative about ways to put the money away. What are some other creative ways you can think of, Liz, that people could just get that $500, just $500 to cover a couple of tires, down payment on a water heater, whatever it
Mhm.
might be. And you can do it in the next 2 weeks, you guys. You can do this. This is not like, oh, let's think about how to do it over in 2022. This is like freaking get $500 into your emergency savings or increase your emergency savings by $500. Let's put a challenge out there. Let's
Oh,
hear
I
from
love that.
people.
Yeah.
Let's put a challenge. And you know what? Tell us how you're doing with it. We have these really cool Shimula coffee mugs. Tell us how you did it. And we've got quite a few of these that we can give away for people who want them for their holiday gifts, for their morning coffee, but it says, I will, no regrets, right?
That's
You
right.
want to, how do you do this? Let's hear from you about how do you put the money away? So Liz, some more ideas.
Absolutely. Maybe there's some, I don't know, babysitting services that you want to do, and you can charge a certain amount to give mommy time to go shopping or daddy time to go shopping for the holidays. And you entertain your kids' friends and say, drop them off. We'll have a little day camp and you can get your shopping done and charge 20 bucks per kid. You do a couple of those and you could have $500 pretty easily. And a really good time that your kids have while you make money, right? That could be one thing. But there's
Right.
definitely something that you could do that's fairly easily. Ask yourself, what is something that I'm ready to let go of that somebody else would really enjoy? And you could put it on Facebook Marketplace, especially if it's something you can't ship, right? See what happens there.
And here we
There's
have
lots,
everything but the house as well is another
yeah.
one.
And I will tell you, there's so much stuff that as Dawn knows, I'm going through stuff that um layers of stuff from my parents' house. And I was like, why do I have all of this stuff? There's stuff, some of it's really beautiful, and it's okay. It's just kind of something I have to dust. It's not something that I traveled and I have an experience and I look at it and I'm reminded of something in particular. The pieces that I love from my childhood, of course, I'm going to keep. But yes, everything but the house is a great idea. Um, there's so many different things.
If you hear me
I moved
typing,
through.
I'm putting all these ideas into the chat. If you hear me typing, so I'm just letting you know that. So
This is kind of funny. I have thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of crystals. My husband actually makes fun of me because I have a room that was dedicated just to crystals on our third floor. And I realized I was doing these like spiritual healing crystal surgery classes. I realized that I wasn't going to be ever using all of those. So I started reaching out to the community and said, anybody need anything in particular? And there's been people coming over and shopping in my crystal room because,
I'm coming over.
right, I have everything. I've got wands and everything. Like I have this huge amber on my desk right here that I was pulling out for somebody. So that's one of the things as well that I said, this is something that somebody else could get a lot of joy out of, and I could sell right now and beef up my emergency savings as well. But one thing I want to talk about, Don, we have the Great Resignation going on. And a lot of times when people leap from the corporate world onto their own, they don't always recognize things like taxes. So make sure that if you're going to go and launch your own business, you do what we're saying and you slice off a certain percentage to put it into a tax account, because there's always a bigger tax bill than people anticipate. They forget that aspect because it was always taken care of for them.
Absolutely. And it's 11:29.
Oh my gosh.
Today is blown by. We are going to start putting all of this. We're going to make the video available for folks if you want to download it. We're converting all of these into a blog so that you can read it if you're not a video kind of a person. And make sure you reach out to us. Let us know if you have a skill that you would like to share with our audience that could support them in the Great Resignation and making the plans that are important. We have Andrea Bednar coming on Friday, Jean Marie Kevens, who is a puppeteer turned coach, amazing, unique ways.
She's great.
She's going to be joining us next week one day. So let us know if you want to come and play with us in this conversation, because if you're looking to make the jump, it can be very serious. It's very serious business, but we can add a sense of play and excitement to it as long as you've got a plan. And what's the right kind of plan for you? So Liz, thanks again for being here. I love
Absolutely.
this.
This
We're
is
glad we
awesome.
go.
Have a
Okay,
great day,
great.
everybody.
Bye, everybody.